Welcome to EpiSTEM podcast. This EpiSTEM podcast is brought to you from the National Centre of STEM Education at the School of Education in the University of Limerick. I'm your host, Geraldine Simmie, and I'm the Professor of STEM Education here at the Centre and the Director of EpiSTEM. And my co-host,
Michelle Starr, and I am the Research Liaison Officer in EpiSTEM.
Welcome back, everybody. We're back now in our autumn 2025, back into the terms, back into the semester. We have over 1,500 student teachers all walking around the university at the moment. A good number of them STEM teachers, going to be future STEM teachers across all the STEM subjects here in the University of Limerick. We have science and mathematics, and we have our engineering and technology, and we have our computer science students all here working in initial teacher education. So it's quite a huge pool of people to draw from. And of course, we're, as the research centre, then EpiSTEM, in the heart of the School of Education, we're working with all of those students as well as with experienced teachers, scientists, mathematicians, engineers, and our own School of Education researchers as well in STEM. Welcome back as well to Michelle.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's great to be back. We're now in week 3, aren't we, Geraldine, of the academic year? But we have normal weather, which is brilliant. Normal autumnal weather, which is nice and sunny. So it's wonderful.
It is. It's lovely. There's a great buzz in college with everyone back. Yeah. It's lovely. And I suppose what we're doing, we want to remind our listeners that we've 21 episodes of our podcast done so far. And now and again, we'll hit on we'll do a bit of a reminisce, maybe Michelle, on one or two of them into the future. But so far we have really enjoyed being able to speak with a nice wide audience. We're very big into that partnership idea anyway, so we have been speaking with our own education researchers in the School of Ed, in the mathematics and in the science and in the engineering side of the house, and we've also talked to scientists, and we will I suppose expand on that. And we've been talking as well with our partners like the Limerick Education Centre and the Hunt Museum, and we've been speaking with student teachers and experienced teachers and schools that took part in our Eco Village.
Yeah, and our industrial partners. We've got a lot of enterprises now that we're working with, and they're supporting us in many, many ways. We'll give a shout out to Serasep on that. We're working on a project this semester and hoping to bring that to a conclusion. But they're a nice Irish-owned company near the University of Limerick, and they're doing some nice work with us. They're doing diagnostic work on water and water treatment, and on, I suppose, bacterial infections in the body and testing and all that. So we'll come back to all of those partners in due course. Yeah, and just going a recap on the 21 episodes that we've done so far, not to go into any of them individually, but just we were talking about the topics that have been recurring throughout the episodes, and they were, we did a lot of future-oriented thinking and the imaginaries, especially with our Sustainable Village project. Ethical purposes and values in STEAM education is always central to what we're talking about, which is inclusive, and that inclusion and equity. As you said, partnership and that cross-interdisciplinary work is another one. And then, which is very, very important, is giving the student the voice and, and about their creativity and their imagination, let it develop. So they're so really the broad themes that
so important. The student voice and well-being and all that. I see it all in the new national curriculum that was launched yesterday for the primary school, the new national curriculum, all on that area of, giving students voice and being able to work with them and being able to see the person and all of that being very important. So that's there in the new curriculum for primary schools.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was unusual. I found it unusual that it was being launched yesterday because it's been out it's written in 2023, but it is great, and there's it's big into the STEM education now, of course, and digital learning and the mathematics are very central in the whole curriculum, as well as the development of the child as well.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose the important and the hard thing to do, maybe the challenge for educators, is to actually find what is a decent balance between any one of those. We've been in a paradigm that has skewed things a lot. In the last 40 years, and particularly the last 25 years, we've been in a paradigm that has put the economy and the individual and competitiveness first.
Yeah.
And unless that paradigm moves away, we're only going to be trying to fix a broken system, really.
Yeah.
So there's a huge challenge and an excitement in that too, because it's very much changing times between the academy and new thinking and all of that. I think there is hope there as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know if the new curriculum there will, because it is very centred on the economy, but which I suppose we're not going to go into talking, or I could put in a critical lens there, but there is good things in there. There's always good things, and we'll go with those as well. But what for today, what I would love to, when we're talking about this new thinking and paradigms, you are very much involved with the European Commission on a new scoping study that has come out, and it's called Education and Skills for Social Transformation and Resilience. So can we talk about that this morning?
Yeah, the European Commission invited 8 of us to do different scoping studies, and I was involved with Mikołaj Herbert from Poland, and I was the only Irish person on that group. And there was different scoping studies done. So the 2 of us were tasked with doing a scoping study from different. We decided to choose our different worldviews, our different ways of doing research. So I chose a philosophical inquiry. We were asked to take the scoping study, following some guidance around what scoping studies do, and the interest Europe has is wanting a fair and an equitable and a sustainable future in terms of this green and digital transition, and saying how does it do that through education and skills. What new apprenticeships, what new ways can it do education? How does it bring that kind of social cohesion? How does it do all of that? How does it have thriving economies? And how does it also care for the planet and the resources and the environment and biodiversity? All of that. So it's using this concept of an STR partnership, which is a kind of a social transformational resilient partnership. So it was a scoping study to examine that and to particularly bring into the 4 maybe aspects of our humanity and education, our human development that had been missing in the debate so far. Yeah. So I really did enjoy being able to do that. And as the Professor of STEM education here in the University of Limerick, I was particularly interested in bringing in the powerful scientific knowledge and the theoretical knowledge that young people need, and the access to a good general education that people need, not leaving young people without access to that powerful knowledge and theoretical knowledge, for them to not, so that they don't go about not understanding the why, and being able to the why in their own world, and being able to have a bird's eye view of what's happening, so that they can grow and develop to be the best they can be, and work in community and in the public service and in the world to make a difference, to have action going with it. So I enjoy doing the scoping study from that perspective.
Yeah, it's a really interesting paradigm that you're working with, and that paradigm shift that you're working with. So we might delve into the study a little bit, but my first question, I suppose, what I'd like to see, so the title is Education and Skills for Social Transformation and Formations and Resilience. And what I want to ask you is, do you think with those 2 words, transformations and resilience, there might be a trade-off? Because, when we think of resilience, or when I think of resilience, I see it as maintaining the system that's going through hard times or goes through shocks, I suppose. And then you've got transformation, which is that it's all about change and the restructuring. So how should the policy, how will the tensions, how will that be navigated, or what way did you see?
Well, it's quite clear. Your thoughts about resilience are very strong, like there, because it's really more or less then you asking people to suffer some more in many ways. And like it does depend on what the paradigm is that's going to drive education. Will there be a paradigm shift, or will we do the same old, and then expect people to be able individually to step up to the same old, and if you like, have some more suffering in many ways. And why I say that is we've had a system for 40 years politically in the world of human capital theory, which has actually put the economy at number one and the competitive individual and smart student at number one, and said that that's the purpose of education. Get you prepared for the world of work and competition, and smart being, that self-motivated, adaptable, resilient, responsible, all that tech savvy, that kind of young person. We've been going after that, and particularly in Ireland in the last 25 years, we've been going after that strongly. And it's like, thinking of it as a game of football, being the most competitive and being a high-performing athlete, and, when you fall down, you pick yourself up and that kind of thing. Now, we're not talking about that as resilience. For me, the resilience is a collective resilience as a people, to know what we stand for, to know what our values are, to take care of our people, to make sure that we try and put a stop to all the inequality and injustice that former paradigm brought us. So I'm very heartened. The first part of the scoping study was about trying to interpret the world as we find it. So I found lots of papers there that were and they were saying that we're probably at the dying days of one paradigm. Gerstley and others were saying that. And then it was the second part of the study then was saying, well, is there any international organisations, is there anything out there that's giving us hope that we are in a paradigm shift, that we're in the betwixt and between of an old and a new world? And so UNESCO in 2021, after COVID, brought out a paper about actually repairing damages, repairing injustices that were brought in by colonisation, repairing all of that, bringing into some new social contract and asking for a new social imaginary. Now that of course can be thought of as the algorithm people, the fellows that like to do the modelling, they can bring us off that way and give us definite answers, or it can be more a democratic space with a new social imaginary that way. So transformative rather than transformational. Transformational is connected to being just an obedient person in an institution, whereas transformative is about emancipatory, about becoming, having that education as a practice of freedom, and being able to make your social conscience and being able to make your choice and having a free conscience and having your own sustainable self. So, it depends on how you define it.
Wow, and that is really good, because it's something I hadn't thought about, in that word, like the transformation and transformative and the difference in those. And that is something, and you have said it in the study about that awareness of that. We're in the neoliberal where things are standardised and you've outputs, etc., and that we have to be aware of not to continue that when we're in the new paradigm, shift that is looking forward towards. Just going back to your study in that new paradigm shift, there's a few, because you did in that first section. It was very into the philosophical. You were looking into the philosophical area and you had a wide question, and because you wanted to look at what studies have been done across the world, and you wanted to make sure that there was nothing you weren't missing something, but what I really picked up on is, and you've written a lot about it, is about the area of subjectivity, and it's one of the purposes of education. The first being, another has been knowledge, and the other is socialization. But that area of subjectivity is not only is it central to your work, but it's very, very much in this, you talked about it in this context of the green and digital transitions. So Can I ask you just to expand on that and why you see it is so important for cultivating an education?
Yes. I think, I suppose being from Lisdoonvarna and it being September and we're thinking of the Matchmaking Festival, I have to think of subjectivity. If I'm explaining it, is that dance between being an individual and being connected as a human in relation with others. It's being a person, your existential, ethical journey of becoming a person in your own right, with an inner world, with a spirituality, developing yourself as a person, but being a human in relation. So you're in relation with others in the world. You're humans, non-humans. You're in relation with technology. We're all going around now with our iPhones attached to us. So you're also in relation with in the environment and biodiversity and etc. So it is actually bringing all of those together. And what I liked in this study, and actually what I came upon the other day, is the OECD, for example, have just published an STI policy. It's called Science, Technology and Innovation, and it's all very related to the STEM area and to STEM education. And it actually talks about, up until now, it says we have been focused on economic competitiveness, and it recognises in the policy published the other day, 2025, it said it recognises that we have been less interested in social impacts.
Wow.
And it says we've been less interested in things like active citizenship, engaged citizenship, etc. But I also think we have been less interested in personal development and the personal ethical work of becoming a person, the journey we're all on from, birth until grave, from one end to the other, always being trying to work on ourselves as human beings, the ethical journey, the moral development journey. That has been eroded out of education, or been maybe positioned in either ethics studies or religious studies, or kind of crammed into a corner and probably not wanting to be spoken of. So subjectivities, I think the feminine aspect of that is to see it in the plural, and to bring that plural piece to it, to get it away from fixity and from kind of a right answer approach, but that when we're educating, we're developing the whole person in a whole rounded way. And it's a really interesting time, because the white paper from Switzerland on sustainability talks about it. The UNESCO papers talk about it. This most recent OECD paper on STEM education speaks about it. So that for me, the third and final part of my study then, to wrap it up, was what will that mean for teachers' knowledge base?
That's what I was going to asking you.
And that's the piece that I found fascinating, because it says we no longer, even in the university, they talked about teachers were living in egg crates, Lorty's egg crates. The teachers were living, in their little silos. But the university is set up pretty much needs in silos as well. People put their arms around their discipline and hold it tight.
Yeah.
And they don't like the transdisciplinary or the multidisciplinary or the interdisciplinary. And when they even go into those spaces, they want to say, well, my subject is the most important one. Yeah. So a kind of a dogmatism happens and breaks out. So that part of it is...
And there's a hierarchy.
And there's a hierarchy, of course. A hierarchy and a determinism is what governs it. So anyway, teachers' knowledge base, according to Jim Hordern and others that I found here in the literature, very, very interesting, talking about the need for the sciences. Yes, definitely. All of the sciences, definitely. To be without them, we'd be in big trouble. Yeah. But the inclusion of the arts and the humanities on an equal footing has to be brought back into play, because that has been kind of eroded as just a bit of creativity. Yeah. And it's not that. Yeah. The arts serve a very, very important purpose for a democratic society and for life. They interrupt, they disrupt, they have that, the tectonic plates, as I say, clashing. They have those clashing plates. So it isn't just one linear, rational way of doing things. Yeah. So the arts serve a very, very strong purpose in our learning about how to live well and live well with others and live on the planet and take care of ourselves and be able to have the critical skills. But Jesse Bazoul summarised it all for me when he said education and STEM education is an open, perpetually open ethical question. And it has to be, because it's got that embedded risk. We're educating people, not robots. And the other piece about it, I suppose, the key piece about it, I suppose, at the end of the day, is education does change depending on the changing economy and politics.
It does. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so in 5-10 years, they'll be looking for something different and something new. And so it's always on that changing landscape. So, yeah, so that was interesting. And then the deliberative traditions, like, as I said, that care of self at a spiritual level and all of that, the importance of the socio-political, the cultural heritage, all of that being so important. So it's very hard to see how any one curriculum can balance all these well.
Yeah.
But the danger of these questions now in terms of ethical and intellectual development, if we silo them into a corner and we have something more important than everything else, that's a real dangerous place to be in.
Yeah. Yeah, I can just imagine.
And so we can't really keep this thinking going with the same old paradigm. It's not going to be, it won't work with the same old paradigm. So there is a lot of research out there working at a paradigm shift.
Yeah, there is. Because even on our own, you know, when you were talking and you were saying about the sciences, they're really important. But then, you know, incorporating the arts and humanities for that critical thinking, for that way of looking at the sciences a little bit differently, asking the different questions. And we saw that in our little small scale sustainability project with the students, because when we were interviewing the students, and I know from talking to them, and that some of them said they would never have done a project like this because they weren't interested in the sciences, only for the fact that it was on that creative side. And whereas we were bringing in the arts, which is the Hunt Museum, and then, of course, the humanities, the social aspect, which is the United Nations SDGs. And they just loved it. Yeah. And they, you know, it just opens up so much, and it opened up so much for the students to think about as well.
Yeah. And there is such excitement going on in the university in terms of reimagining all of these. The engineering education, we'll be talking about it in a week or two's time. There's new exciting developments happening across the way. The science education people, I'm just back from Copenhagen from a conference there at the ESERA conference, the European Science Education Research Association conference, and they've set up a new futures-oriented special interest group with our adjunct professor Sibyl Ergeran from the University of Oxford, that we know well and was a former director of Epistem. And there's a new futures oriented view of a reimagining science education for the moment we're in and into the future, on an understanding that, well, what we've been doing up until now is fine, but we definitely need to change we need that paradigm shift.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And it's great to see that movement, and you're a big part of that whole movement, because it's just like, it's hopefully we get to create that space for students to explore their own values, as you talked about earlier, their identities and their own moral expectations, and then incorporate the justice and equality and equity and all of it into it. Yes. So it's an amazing, and you're heading off to Scotland as well this week. You're giving a paper.
Yeah, I'm heading off to the University of Edinburgh now, Thursday and Friday, where there's going to be a lovely project there on STEAM education, using the garden and this concept of the garden, and bringing students into the garden and getting them to put their hands in the soil and make food in the garden and create, grow food in the garden, and use that as their STEAM education way of learning, to get them outside of the classroom and put them into the spaces where they have arts-based pedagogies and innovative ways of thinking about how science matters in the world, and how in a highly scientific and technological world, the garden will give them space to ponder and to connect with nature, and give them time to reflect and to slow down and all of those good things. So I saw somewhere, I can't remember where, but the idea of you use the sciences to make sense or make meaning, but the arts help you to make strange and to re-look at things, and the deliberative traditions, when they're added together, help you to make waves.
Wow.
Yeah. And I just love the idea of that, So it's all of those. It's that it's all that connectivity, that transdisciplinary connectivity that I love, that is coming as well. And we can no longer go around holding one discipline so close to our heart that we don't want to, let anything else interfere. Yeah. We need all of the disciplines now, the whole lot, to be able to live well in the world and live well with others and make a difference to our communities and and our country, and also to be able to look after the biodiversity and the environment we're in. So those all are those exciting things. Maybe just before we go, Michelle, is there anything you want to add today so as we wind up?
Well, I suppose we should just tell our listeners that we had a great team from engineering, technology and the construction studies under Associate Professor Donal Canty and Lee Marquette. And they were doing wonderful work in developing some CPD resources for us to have up on our website and for the teachers to use in the classroom. The students were Chloe Hartnett, Joshua Sullivan and Oisin Smith, and they were working very hard over the summer looking at topics. They were looking at polymers and about how, teaching that through the modelling, and so the students will be able to see the difference, to make their own polymers and to see the different structures of them and the characteristics of them, and, doing thermoplastics and where they are applied. And also there was another area which was on buildings and the size of buildings and the location in relation to temperature and light and the effects that these have.
Yes.
So they're very interesting hands-on activity CPDs.
And they'll come in under the heading of Engineering and Technology CPD on our EpiSTEM Academy of STEM Teachers for anyone that wants to register and to come involved with us and to join us. The epistem.ie is the website, and then the EpiSTEM Academy of STEM Teachers. You can register and download all of the resources through the STEM and STEAM and mathematics and science are there. We've done hundreds of resources there, and we'll be developing that, and we'll have somebody new taking over that section in the coming week. So we're looking forward to telling our listeners more about that as we go. And so I'll wind off by just reminding people that our Green, Equitable and Equitable Transition book from the Eco Village project, that we have a booklet produced, and if anybody wants to get a copy of it online, they can email you, Michelle. Can they email michelle.starr@ul.ie? They can email if they want, any of our listeners, and if anybody wants, we've got a limited number of published books as well. If people want a physical copy of the book, they can get in touch with us as well. Right. So we'll wind up today and just say thank you very much for listening to us, and press subscribe. Is that what we say?
Yes.
Press subscribe and keep in touch with us. Thank you. So we're going to play out today with a lovely piece of music. We have Ailey Pope is going to play for us. Ailey Pope, she's a fourth year, final year student in the BA in World Music, and she's an instrumentalist and a composer, and she's in the Irish World Academy of Music and Dance here at the University of Limerick. Now, Ailey's from Nina and Tipperary, and as I said, she's even a composer herself. But today for the tune, she has decided to pick on The Boyne Water, and it's an arrangement played by Martin Hayes with his group called the Common Ground Ensemble. But today, let's hear Ailey play it. So, Ailey Pope, over to you, and thank you very much.